Thanks for checking out SYMFONI on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.
Well, I mean, from just before Democracy Day, the president made two statements, which is really quite amazing when you realize that this is our president that does not speak to Nigerians. And so to make those statements back to back, 3 days in a row, for me, it meant that the president wanted to say something to the South and to the Southeast, and almost everything he said, I view them and understood them to be threats, and not really talking to the people of the South or the people of the Southeast. That's really the people that are from the defunct old Eastern region that was engaged, that the Nigerian government engaged in a war almost how many decades ago, you know. So everything for me was a threat. There was nothing there to indicate that the president understood or wanted to understand what the people of the South and Southeast, and Southeast have been saying, and even the whole southern region, which included the Yoruba people as well, and by a large extension, the Middle Belt, since we seem to be speaking the same language, if you if you like.
All right, just then on the what the perceptions are. I remember that. First of all, we do remember the president saying that he belongs to everyone and doesn't belong to no one in particular, from the campaign days, and he's almost 6 years, or rather 6 years in office. And this is happening now where, references are made to specific parts of, Nigeria as being, dots in the circle. How do you review that from a man who said he belongs to everyone to a man who has, come out clearly by body language and speech to say that there is a bias in some of the treatment lines of different ethnic groups?
First of all, I must say that from here on, and for a very long time, actually, I have always spoken from the platform of being aware of how we got independence, when we got independence, and when our national anthem went something like brotherhood, though tongue and tribe may differ, and in brotherhood we stand. That is the Nigeria that I am speaking from and to. Now, looking at what the president said, I belong to no one, I belong to everybody, which really was also something that he picked up from another president. But I mean, he debunked that immediately. He was after he was sworn in, which was his ceremonial, one of his phrases of his ceremonial speeches, and he traveled abroad in America. And when he was asked what he intended to do about the agitation of the Niger Delta people, if we recall, the president immediately made it very clear that there were people he regarded as 97% of Nigerians, and then there were people he regarded as 5%. Now, 97 plus 5 is actually 102, and so maybe the other extra were people that were going to come into Nigeria. That's one. Two, following that, the president went to the United Nations and started demanding for self-determination for the Palestinian people, referencing what was happening to the Palestinian people on behalf of Nigeria. Now, in my opinion, that take is very striking, because here you are, a president of a country that is Muslim and Christian, going on a world forum in the name of both Muslims and Christians, and now favoring the plight of Muslims in another part of the world for self-determination, and yet criminalizing his own people, supposedly his own people, in quotes, Nigerians, who are also demanding for self-determination. So in Nigeria, we have two Nigerias, and we really, really have to accept this reality if we actually want Nigeria to survive as a country. And I appeal actually to the people who are handling the president, that quite honestly, history will record them and the president as the people who kick-started this downward spiral route that Nigeria is on, that seems to really be a downward spiral of no return. It's incredible that the president of Nigeria will refer to a group of people as a dot in the country that he is governing, that will say that a decision legally taken, democratically taken, within the rights of the southern governors, that he will more or less reverse that decision. He has no such powers to reverse that decision, because the land in my state is vested in my governor. It's not vested in the federal government. It's not vested in the person of the president. And therefore, he really legally has no rights and cannot give routes that he's talking about gazetted. It's a defunct law that a people have freedom to drive on the highway. For instance, I am a car driver, that I can drive on the east-west road or on a road does not make a road my personal property. And that's what the president is saying. And he needs to know, people need to tell him that he is wrong, he is not right. He has no right to insist that people, governors, Annkio, Briggs, Igbo people, Ikwere people, Ogoni people must give up their land to Fulani Herdsmen. There is no such right. And so what he is driving is actually going to bring war to this country.
All right, and let's do a bit of a contextual analysis of that statement, dot in the circle, because so many people have been speaking on it. I don't know what you make of it, what kind of interpretation you make of it. What's the president trying to say, that the Southeast agitation is a small problem? Or was he referring to the people of the Southeast as being insignificant? What's the interpretation of that?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, and maybe for historical purposes, remember the war, and I am a victim, and some of my family members are victims of the Civil War. So I recall the Civil War. I understand the Civil War. I know what led up to the Civil War. The president, in that interview with the television station, was speaking as a warlord. He was speaking as a general at war with a country. That was the way he spoke. He referred to them, and he reminded the Igbo people, because my people, I don't know how many people from my community or from my state that have businesses in Kano or Kaduna or Lagos. He was referring specifically to Igbo people and reminding them that they have a lot of property and investment outside the area that he had described as dot. Now, that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it was that it was clearly disregard, disdain to the people that he was referring to. Now, the whole Igbo nation are not IPOB. IPOB is a movement headed by a group of people. IPOB is not an identity of a nationality. There are members of a nationality that are members of IPOB, just like there were members and still are members of men, just as there are members, Fulani Herdsmen, with, I mean, since before this time, people say that Fulani Herdsmen have lived amongst them in the southwest and in the southeast and stuff like that, which is true. Now, you cannot therefore say that the violence that is perpetrated by Fulani Herdsmen today in Nigeria is perpetrated by all Fulani people across Nigeria. So to now act and threaten, it was a threat to the people and referring, actually, the president made a claim which made me to react. The president made a claim and said that he heard, and he pointed to his ears. He did like this. He said, nobody told me. I heard that leaders, elders of the South and youths of the South have promised that there will this time, what is this time? This time, it means he is anticipating a war. This time, there will be no access to the ocean. What does he mean? The war was not about access to the ocean, and it was not fought in the ocean. The war was fought in the land that is today Southeast and South, and the majority of the damage was done to the people and the land of this area. Now, yes, we were formerly of the eastern region, but we didn't. I want to make this clear, please. We did not. My people of the Niger Delta region, my people, particularly the Ijos, did not wage a war against Igbo in 1968. It was the federal government that waged a war against Igbo. May I also say that Adaka Boro did not get up and fight a war against Igbo. He raised arms against the Federal Republic of Nigeria even before the coup and before the war. So the government refuses to teach our children history, but when they want to refer to history, they are not truthful about history. And thank God for people like me, because I know what happened and I will speak the truth.
And to stay with you, I mean, one would wonder why, the president showed so much excitement at the possibility of a particular region being landlocked, in the subject case of the South, talking about the secession. That somebody said that was quite cynical. But going forward, for a country where one line in our pledge says to defend her unity and uphold her honor and glory, and have the president's body language speak of, a divided front, and also a country that seems to be on the edge, of a precipice. How do you define, the presidential state of mind right now? Because some would say, and they used to say, it was the presidency, not the president. But we've heard the president speak, and truth be spoken, his body language, as well as what he said, speaks of a man who knows what he's talking about.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you, and I have said this right from the beginning. From the moment he gave that first interview, I said, now we have a president that wants to tell Nigerians something. Now, the Nigerians he is speaking to are the Nigerians that are being attacked, that are being killed, are the Christians that are being attacked, that are being killed. He's speaking to the Nigerians that he believes are a conquered people. Now, you asked me, what is my take? This is my take. This is my analysis. I am old enough to be responsible, to have a responsibility to speak the truth both to myself and to anybody else who cares to listen. The president's body, I hate to speak about anybody's body language, but the president's so-called body language is one of war, is one of disdain, is one of disregard. When you are blatantly taking rights that you don't have, it's a threat. It is an oppressive position to take against the people of the Southeast and the South, and actually jamming the heads of the most critical people today in Nigeria, the South and the Southeast. And may I say this as well? People may not see it like this, but let me say this. Now, some of us are of different ethnic heritage in this country. Some of us, therefore, who are of different ethnic heritage, if you look at me, you will see that I am of a different coloration. That coloration means that I have one parent who is white and one parent who is black, very clearly. Now, in Nigeria, I also come from a heritage that is not just Ijaw heritage, that includes other people in the Niger Delta. we marry, we intermarry. Shekiri marry Urobo, Urobo marry Shekiri. Now, if somebody has an Urobo mother and an Ijo father, and there is dispute between Urobo and Shekiri, how do you think that person feels? And this is what I want to highlight, that we may have our differences and disagreements as different ethnic nationalities, but when push comes to shove, when the bottom line is reached, we have to watch each other's back, because if somebody who has an Ijo father, has an Igbo grandmother, I mean, you can't even begin to say to that person that that person has to make a decision between their Igbo heritage, which is through their father's mother or their mother's father, and through the other heritage, which may be Shekiri or Urobo. And these are the sensitivities that the government, particularly this government, and specifically the president, has chosen to ignore. That you cannot, at the end of the day, knock the heads of Igbo and their neighbors and their cousins together, because we are cousins, because we're closer. And I don't know too many people who have heritage that is in Ijo and also in let's say Fulani, or let's say Nupe, or let's say Tiv. But I know a lot of Ijo people, Shekiri people, Urobo people, Ogoni people who have Igbo heritage, whose grandmothers are married to either Ogoni men or Ijo women and all those things. So at the end of the day, we will love and protect ourselves, no matter our differences.
All right.
This must be understood.
All right. And staying with the president's claims about the South-South leaders, I mean, he appeared to be quite gratified that the South-South leaders and South-South youths have said there will be no access to the sea for separatists of the Southeast. I know you can count 1 to 20 or 1 to 50 top leaders, vocal leaders in the Niger Delta, and Annkio Briggs will be mentioned there. Was there any time that leaders of the South-South or youth leaders of the South-South ever met and said there will be no access to the sea, as claimed by the president?
Absolutely not. Not that I am aware of. Absolutely not. And I have spoken to key members of different ethnic nationalities in the Niger Delta, and nobody gave the president that impression. But the way I understood him, the president was very specific in how he passed that information out. He said he heard. He was not told, he heard, he read that elders and youths have said, look, there are people who are so frustrated in the Niger Delta that they do believe that Biafra is a movement that they believe in. Now, I, Annkio Briggs, believe in the self-determination and responsibility. And if it really comes to that, and if my survival of my people depends only on that, then we have to discuss a separation so that we can move forward. That I believe in. But does that make me a member of the people agitating for the Republic of Biafra? No, it does not. So now, there are Igbos who do not believe in the agitation for the Republic of Biafra, but there are some Igbos, and they have a right to that, to believe in that republic. Now, how they go about it and what comes out of it is their choice. I have chosen my path, and my path is, let us restructure Nigeria, let each state cater for itself, let us have self-determination within Nigeria. Now, if that's not possible, then a divorce is imminent. Even Wole Soyinka said it, that unless this country is restructured, that Nigeria is heading for dissemination, is heading for a breakup. Now, the president cannot say that he's not aware of this. He must be aware of this. He's a retired general. He spent his whole life in the army. He knows what he wants for himself and his people, and he has demonstrated that. And so what we are saying, what I and Annkio Briggs is saying, as an Ijo daughter, as a Niger Delta daughter, and as a cousin of so many other ethnic nationalities in the Niger Delta, is that we need peace. We want peace. We must have peace, and we must have equity and justice. How
And
do we get this equity and justice? And how do we get this peace? Is
that's
what we're
exactly
asking for.
That's exactly where I was coming to. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned Dr. Professor Wole Soyinka talking about, the need to do something because Nigeria was standing at the edge. I mean, we saw the protest on June 12th on Saturday across the country, where we saw Lagos, even in the FCT, some parts of the Southwest, protesting for different, needs, most especially on the issue of insecurity and fairness and justice in the way that the president has handled insecurity. And even in London, in Trafalgar Square, there was a protest as well, and in Washington, D.C. But then you've spoken about restructuring. We've heard about, decentralization. We have talked about looking at true federalism. This was one of the key conversations that was also pundit about during the campaign period of Mr. President and the APC party, amongst other, stalwart. And, it is quite interesting that now that restructuring has sort of become the clarion call amongst the leadership and the elite, amongst, different classes of political aware citizens. It is very eminent from the body language of Mr. President that he does not, and will not, consider restructuring. And in that, guys, what do you think is the danger of that?
Well, the danger is so blatantly clear that I'm surprised that we're even discussing it, because for the past 6 years, this government came into power telling Nigerians who voted for them, I didn't vote for them, telling Nigerians who voted for them that they understood, they know what restructuring is, and they campaign on restructuring. But some of us also know, having listened to the president in the past, before he became president, that he does not believe in restructuring. He said he would not even look at the 2014 National Conference report. He was not going to do anything about it. He was opposed to it. He didn't want his people to partake in it, but his people partook in it, whether he likes it or not. Now, the reality, therefore, is this. The president is driving what the president, wants for the president and for his ethnic nationality. He is not driving what Nigerians want. And here lies the problem, because his ethnic nationality is not the only nationality in Nigeria, and they are not the largest, they are not amongst the large ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. And so the plan, as we see it now, as we have analyzed it, the plan to bring in his ethnic nationalities that are in other countries, bringing them into Nigeria to lay claim to Nigerian heritage in any part of Nigeria is not acceptable. It is definitely not acceptable in my state. That's what we are saying. So the president has a right to have a different desire for his people and himself, just the same way we have a different desire. Look, during the men's era, people like Chief E.K. Clark, people like Annkio, people like Dr. Igali, so many people, Timi Alaibe, the whole lot of us, we know the roles we play in bringing about the stability of the region. Before Yaradua, or the unfortunate death of Yaradua, I missed that man very, very much. Nobody knows what Nigeria would have become if he had not died, but nobody is questioning God. But the reality is, Nigeria is faced with imminent danger. The danger of being separated. Some people may want it, some people don't want it. But you see, what is keeping Nigeria going, whether we like it or not, is the oil that is in the Niger Delta. People will say, oh, oil doesn't mean anything. There is electric car coming. Electric car where? And even if the oil doesn't mean anything anymore, well, leave the oil where it is. Now they are facing gas. You can see everything about gas. We're not fools. We know that gas brings more money, and there is more gas reserve deposit in the Niger Delta region than there is even crude oil. And so we know why the president, and both internal and external interests, economic and otherwise, are insisting that Nigeria must stay together. But you see, the question is not, we're not saying Nigeria should not stay together. We're saying, how do we stay together? And we say, who is paying the price? All this money this government is borrowing, where is the repayment coming from? You know, and where is the investment going to when with this money? They're borrowing money to now all of a sudden is railway. That's all we're hearing. Railway. I went on the Ibadan Lagos train for a program in Oyo, in Ibadan. And I went from Lagos to Ibadan. And look, I've been in trains all over the world, in other parts of the world. The train I got on, compared to even the oldest train in the United Kingdom, is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. The material is poor. The building of the casting, the building of the train is poor. The seats are poor. It is 6,000 naira for first class. The chairs are low. There are no tables, and that's first class. This is arrant nonsense. And you're borrowing money to do all these things, and you're giving Nigerians a Photoshop. I have my own photos that I took. We were walking across planks to go from one side of the railway. We were crossing the railway tracks to enter the to go on the railway. To go on the train. And yet we hear this government telling us of what a fantastic job this railway thing is. It is not a fantastic job. I've been on the Lagos Ibadan train in the first class, and it is nothing compared to even the economy trains that you have in England between Manchester and London.
I'm sorry that
I thank God that some of us are exposed and some of us do travel. We see, we're not blind.
Thank you so much. I think that's much we can take. I was just about throwing in where the president said the youths have to behave themselves if they wanted employment.
All right.
Yeah, please let me very quickly chip in there. You know, for a president whose children, all his children, apart from the ones he had before his present wife, are youths, and for a president to say to other people's children that they have to behave themselves before they can have a job. So they have to behave themselves before they can partake in politics. So that document is signed with them. It's not true like many things. They have to behave themselves before. How do you shoot at people who are exercising their democratic right on a day that you have chosen to honor Abiola and celebrate or whatever democracy? And you, a president, you partook in demonstrations and nobody shot at you. Nobody shot at you, and yet you are shooting at other people's children.
All right, Madam Annkio Briggs, that's how much you have time for. I don't know where you actually, when you boarded that train. Is it recent? Unfortunately, we don't have time. Recent.
It was on the 7th.
7th of June?
The day I went.
Was it after the commissioning?
No, before. I went on Monday. I went on Monday to Ibadan. I left Ibadan on Wednesday. So I was on that train 2 days before the president went to commission it. He commissioned an unfinished project.
All right.
At least the Lagos end to the Ibadan end. I sat on it for almost 3 hours.
That's an
very slow. I can walk faster than that train.